Hey, welcome in Apex. This is Eric Roberts with Apex Piano Technicians Network, and I am here with TJ DeWitt, and we're gonna do a whole big story. Welcome in, TJ.
Hey, thank you, Eric.
This is going to be a pretty cool time. We're going to hang out. We're going to tell TJ's story. I'm going to give him a short introduction, then we're going to talk about his real life. TJ started 1 year ago today. He started his business, started the mentorship, I think, in October, November. And then by January, he started tuning full time. Right now, he made it through this 2024 actually in a really good way. He has 203 pianos on his book, so he's got 203. That's about clients or pianos. He's invoiced this year $52,395. He bought a new truck, which that's cool. And he moved. I'll let you say, he moved into a new apartment. Dropped 30 pounds. I don't know how you did that, man. Was that like that? Wasn't with piano tuning. You weren't doing.
Yeah, it's probably stress from being an entrepreneur.
Probably, yeah. He couldn't eat. He couldn't afford to eat, so he was broke.
Yeah. Right.
So he worked about 131 days this year. He averaged 2.5 days a week, and he did make more, almost double what he made in his full-time job before he started piano tuning. I remember when TJ started, yeah, he was kind of broke, and he was just kind of scrapping to get something started, and he has started his business. He's rebranding his business. And he's actually probably, TJ, you're probably, of all the people in the mentorship, you're probably the bravest one I've seen so far. I mean, you took on some pretty big, bold jobs in your first year.
Yeah, probably more like dumbest one.
Yeah. Yeah. Like he rebuilt an entire upright action, like did dampers, like the first 6 months of his company. Before I ask you all these questions, why don't you just give the more like personal view of kind of what happened? It says right here you were broke, depressed, and lazy, but you said you were still lazy today. So.
Yeah, still fighting that old laziness, man. It's a struggle.
Tell me, what brought you to piano? What was that beginning?
So, a really probably long story short, firstly, thank you so much for the opportunity to share. I'm pretty passionate about this because it has actually changed my life. So going way back, my whole beginning adult life from 18 up, I was in ministry full time. And unfortunately, I went through a major separation about 5 years ago. And I went and I got a quote unquote real world job. And I bounced around from a few different things. I worked in like insurance and construction, and eventually I landed at like a small family-owned used car dealership. And I started out in sales, and then I just kind of did account management and different things. And as much as I loved the people, because this is, in public, I can't say anything negative. I absolutely love the people that I work with. I hated my job. And not so much that I hated my job, I just hated working for someone. I hated having to clock in. I worked Tuesday through Saturday. And, that it was not fun. I clocked in, clocked out, drew a little paycheck, and that was my life. Because of my separation and just terrible life circumstances, I found myself broke, depressed, living in a fifth wheel camper on some friends' land. I mean, I couldn't even afford a home. And it was a really tough season.
It says right here you were at the car dealership. You were making like 20. 30,
yeah, I made
33,000.
I made 33,000 in 2023. I live in Oklahoma, and the median income for Oklahoma is like 32,000 a year for a single person. I was right there. In some places that might. I mean, it's not much money. I mean, in today's world, unfortunately.
Yeah, pretty tough.
I was right there. I made 33,000. As a single person. I have 2 children that I help support, and so I was just broke due to there's no way about it. I was just flat broke, and I think there's a lot of people who in this world today can relate to that they just didn't have enough money, to do what they wanted to do. They barely had enough to survive. And so I knew I wanted to be in business for myself. I just knew that that's what I wanted in life. I wanted to have my own business. And at the time that I started the mentorship, I was 29. And so probably about 27, 28, I really started trying to think about what I wanted to do as far as owning a business. And when I was a teenager, I remember the piano tuner coming to my home, and I just found it interesting. I actually shadowed the local tuner in my area when I was a teenager, who's now my friend and helps me a ton, as a colleague. And I tried learning, but it was just at 16, the only way to learn was like through, at that time, was like correspondence courses, probably like what you did. And they taught oral tuning, and it was way too complicated for my 16-year-old brain to comprehend. So I quickly gave that up.
Oh, that's right. I remember you said that you started like another piano tuning school that was when you were 16.
Yeah.
And you just like your brain just exploded.
I just couldn't get it. Yeah.
That's crazy. So you had a little bit of piano tuning in your blood there. You wanted to.
Yeah. I knew I was intrigued by it, and so when I'm at this stage of my life where I'm in my mid-20s and I'm wanting to start a business. I'm thinking, what can I do? And I thought, there's a need for piano tuners. There's only one in probably about a 2-hour radius of me. Maybe two, and hit and miss. There may be some guys who say they can tune a piano, but there's no like actual piano technicians really, except really one. And he's in his 60s, and I know tuners can tune till 70 and 80, but I'm thinking if I'm about to hit 30 at this point in time, time's in my benefit. Eventually he's going to retire, and then who does that leave? It leaves an open market for somebody. And so I remember like one quick story that I remember. I'm the baby of my family. I have 2 older brothers and an older sister, and the brother closest to me is 7 years. And I was talking to him one day. I said, I think I'm going to learn how to tune pianos and do that for a living. And he may have not said this verbatim, but this was the extent of the conversation. He said, "You're stupid."
That was your brother?
Like, yeah, that was my brother, who's like retired military, retired Oklahoma Highway Patrol, very pragmatic and realistic thinking. He's like, that is a terrible idea. Like, do not do that. Do not waste your money. And he would have killed me, and this is kind of jumping forward, but when I did the mentorship, I had terrible credit, and I went and got a high interest loan to be able to afford the mentorship and buy, some basic tools, just because, I believed in myself, and we'll get into that in a second, but I remember this conversation. It's like, man, don't do this. This is a terrible idea. And other people would tell me that. I remember one guy who was a quote unquote piano tuner, this old musician. He came up to me and he was like, I heard you want to be a piano tuner. There ain't no pianos to tune anymore. Everything's gone digital.
Right.
And we're talking. He's like, it takes me about 6 hours to tune a piano. I just take an old leather strap and put it in between them strings.
So the piano tuner told you not to do it.
Yeah. Well, piano tuner's a stretch, really. It's a guy who I guess had some form of experience tuning pianos. So I started the mentorship in October of 2023. Yeah, October 2023. And I'm working in the car dealership, and I just decided to bet on myself. We had a Zoom meeting, and you convinced me, like, hey, you can make money doing this. And so I jumped in, feet first. I started learning. And in December of 23, my boss came to me, and they had actually decided to close the business down that I was working at. And so they shut the doors. I took a layoff, and I decided to jump in feet first, January 1st of 2024, a year ago today, and became a piano technician with $0. And in December, I tuned. So in October, I'm training. I'm just practicing on the piano at my parents' house and at my church piano, and I'm just practicing. Then December, when I knew that I was getting laid off, I've never tuned a piano for free for a person. I said from the start, this is my business, and so I didn't want to charge. I was practicing, but I just said, "Hey, I'm tuning pianos right now for donations." So I got like 3 church pianos, and a friend paid me like $40 to tune their piano, but it wasn't like, "Hey, I'm practicing, so can I tune your piano for free?" Like I wanted to establish myself as someone who knew what they were doing from the start. And that wasn't to be facetious or anything. That was just to say, this is my business. This isn't just a hobby that TJ's doing. This is my business. And so I tuned about 3 or 4 pianos in December, and then I kicked off in January. And thankfully, in January, I got a call on that Blunthor project, a guy with a destroyed Blunthor, and you helped me. I don't know if you remember that, but you helped me to build an estimate on that for $5,000, and the guy did it. And so I jumped into that thing, and
Yeah, that was pretty quick.
that was crazy. Yeah, the first month in.
Yeah, that was crazy. But like with the mentorship, that's kind of what you can do. I mean, that's why you can get started so quickly, because once you learn your basic tuning, you can start working in the field. And if you have, it's the same thing that happened with me and Jack, my mentor. I never would have been able to go that quick without somebody I could call and say, hey, like, I remember that quote, you said, this is what I got, this is what should I do? And I just wrote it out. Here's what I would charge. Here's what you need to do. And I can't remember the whole conversation, but you probably asked me, like, do you think I can do this? I'm like, yeah, you can do this stuff. It's basic stuff. So you kind of like learned on that project, and it worked out fine. You made a lot of money, and it kind of got you jump started in there. I don't think everybody should do that, because you got to be like, but if you're good with your skills and your hands and you're able to make it happen, I mean, you're kind of like, hey, make it work. You can make it work. You've got all the mentorship videos. You have me. You have, you're not going to get in a lot of trouble as long as you can. Did that project like ever scare you? I mean, on here I was like,
oh, absolutely.
Were you freaked out? I mean, when you took it,
absolutely.
Were you like just
so I'm still, like, to be 100% transparent, I just finished that project completely last week. Like,
okay, you had to fix up some.
Yeah, I've been working on that piano for a year. A lot of it was the regulation, because I was so intimidated and scared about regulation. I didn't get a lot of the regulation right. And to give a little background on this piano, a man bought a property and found this piano, and when his movers were trying to move it, the leg broke on it, and it fell on its back. Mice had been in it, bugs had been in it. It was outside. And he wants to try to breathe life into this thing. So you can imagine how terrible the regulation on it was.
Well, I remember you replaced all the felts, all the bottom punchings, the keys. I mean, you did I was a little worried for you, but I was like, oh, he'll figure it out.
Yeah, the dampers, replacing all the damper felt, that was the hardest part for sure.
That was a great project. And if you're new to this, a great thing would be go get a junk piano on Craigslist and just replace the dampers, replace the felts. I mean, the more you do, the better. When I was in mentorship, I would go meet with a guy locally every Saturday. And I was doing my online school, and I had my mentor, but there was another guy, Tim, and he said, you come into the shop and you can just rebuild. So I would go in there, and he would just say, like, here, sand these sharps down or do this. And I would always be like, what if I think I'm going to break it? And he's like, no, if you break it, we'll fix it. That's kind of the mentality that I kind of grew up with, is like, if we break it, we fix it. That's what we do anyway.
So that's what I told myself. I still tell myself that every day, that there's nothing on this piano. I'll tell myself, I'll literally get to a piano, and I'll say, there's nothing on this piano you can't fix.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's like, I just had to change that mentality. I remember when I would be stressed that I couldn't do it, and I would just remind myself, I'd say, TJ, you are a master piano technician. I might have not actually been one.
Right.
But I had to convince myself that you've trained for this, you've learned this. And I dealt with imposter syndrome really bad. And I think we talked about this a little bit. When I started making really good money, and I know we kind of need to get in the timeline, because not everybody's going to have a $5,000 project their first month. Like, I get that. I'm not a normal circumstance. And I tell people, when I talk to people who think about wanting to do this, I tell them, don't do it like me. Save your money. Keep a job or a part-time job while you kind of grow a clientele. I did it a very scary way, and a way that wouldn't have been sustainable if I didn't have the opportunities that I had. And so, like, I do realize that. But yeah, so
yeah, it is better to keep your job. A lot of people I talk to coming into the mentorship, they already have jobs. They at least have part-time jobs. Some of them have full-time jobs. And I say, you need to have money. I mean, I was
Hmm.
thrown into this. I was training while I was working a full-time job. I got laid off like Monday. I was a worship leader as well. Sunday did my service. Monday they laid me off, and I was like, well, what the heck? I mean, I was a full-time gig. And so I just said, I'm done. But I had already been learning tuning about a year, and so I
Yeah.
had already been messing with them, and I had already tuned a few pianos on the side. So, but I did the same thing. I was like, well, I just got to make it work. I'm gonna make it work. So if you get laid off, or if you know you're getting laid off, which is multiple people in the mentorship have told me that. I think my job's gonna end. I got to
Yeah.
get trained. You can train up in this in 3 to 6 months. You can be ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then so that was so any major mistakes or unexpected hurdles? How did that shape your approach and anything? I know you've had some hurdles. Like some of them, I know
Yeah.
you've had. Like you'll text me and be like, "Man, I got no tunings this
Yeah.
month." Like I know you had some of that. So, but what was the hardest part about like that first 6 months?
Yeah, so I'm a pretty excitable guy. I think you've probably learned that about me. I get either really happy or really stressed. There's not a lot of in between, and so that's been challenging as just an entrepreneur as a whole, to deal with the lows, because there's going to be slow times, there's going to be low times, there's going to be hard times. The first 6 months, especially though, I had that project in January. In February, I tuned like 3 pianos, and I was scared, because I basically used up the down payment that I was paid for the $5,000 project, buying tools, getting everything ready, and then living off that. And then February, I only tuned a few pianos. And I thought this isn't sustainable. What have I done? And so I was really scared. It's so much so in March, and we talked about this this whole time. In March, I was thinking I'm gonna have to give this up and just go get a job, and I was torn because I knew the potential of what I could make investing my full time energy into piano work. I knew that potential was substantially higher than if I just went and got a regular job. And so it really broke my heart to think I'm going to have to give this up, because if I have to go get another job, I'm probably never going to build what I want to build. But it was to that point that I knew that I had to do something. So in March, I had a men's retreat that I went to where I just got away from the world, and I told, I'm a Christian, so I'm just that plays a big part in my life and my decision making. So I told the Lord, I was like, if we don't do something, by this men's retreat, when I get back, I'm either going to know whether to move forward in piano work or just go get a 9 to 5 and just work. And I talked to another technician who used to live in my area, and he told me about some things that he would do on social media to help him. And so I started implementing Facebook marketing, just like going into what's happening community groups and saying, hey, I'm a piano tuner, I'm going to be in the area this day. And I went in March. So January, February, March, I maybe tuned 7 pianos total. Until mid-March, I booked out 3 weeks. I mean, my clientele went swamped. I made it from like March to April, like into May. I probably made $10,000 to $12,000.
Wow.
Just in that time, it kind of blew up.
Yeah,
It's like
that's a huge difference.
yeah, so it's like my whole area woke up and said, "Oh my gosh, we actually have a guy that knows how to tune pianos here. Let's everybody call him." So that
But
Easter
you did
was
something really, really specific, and in the mentorship, we're going to be diving into it way more this year. But like, you actually did a Facebook. You didn't pay for Facebook ads. You just went on there and
right,
scrapped on
totally
Facebook.
free, totally
And
free. I just
so
had to
you
hustle it.
you hustled. You went in. So you went in. And you said, "Hey, I'm going to be in this city next week. Anybody have a piano?" And then you just DM'd everybody that talked to you, and then you said, "Hey, if you want to." What would you say? Like, if I tune your piano or if I tune your neighbors, I'll give you a discount. And you just kept,
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
would go into an area, a rural area.
I can break that down for you a little bit.
Yeah,
How
break
I
it down.
specifically did it. So because I live in a rural area, there's less than 1,000 people in my hometown where I live right now. There's less than 1,000 people, and so I have a much larger radius. Where in Nashville, people are Googling piano tuner near me. Nobody's Googling that here. I mean, some are. Don't. That's an exaggeration. But the whole point
Right.
is their pianos are just untuned because nobody knows how to tune them. There's nobody on Google, so they've stopped Googling that. And so I took this idea of, I'm a word of mouth business. What's the biggest mouth that I can use to try to, spread something? And so I would get a hit, and I might have to drive an hour and 20 minutes away. And I would tell this person, someone would message me, will you come to this town? And there's Pickens, Oklahoma. I'll use that as an example. Pickens is a tiny community. I don't even know if they have a post office.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a tiny community. And it's in southeast Oklahoma, and a lady messaged me. She said, "Hey, will you come to Pickens?" And I said, "Ma'am, that's quite a drive for me. I will come for you, but I'm either going to have to charge a travel mileage fee if it's just for you, or if you can help me get 2 more pianos to tune while I'm there, I won't have to charge anybody a mileage fee. If you can get me more than 2 more, I'll start discounting your personal service for helping me." And so she said, I'll call you tomorrow. She reached back out the next day. She had 7 pianos for me to come tune. And so I tuned her piano for $100, and I ended up selling a flange repinning job and rebushing job for about $1,200 to a church. I did a hammer reshaping job for $400. I sold a lady a new piano, and with delivery, it was about $1,200. So that's 3 of the 7 pianos now that we've already made, $3,000-$4,000. Plus, do you remember the soundboard separation, the screw in the soundboard in the bridge?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That came from Pickens, that problem. So that was a few $100s, and then a few more tunings, and I made $8,000 in a week.
Wow.
From one lady in Pickens, Oklahoma, saying, will you come tune my piano?
Yeah,
and
they just don't have anybody out there, and so and you can that's huge. And so you turned your business around. Being in the mentorship, I get frustrated if people are failing but not really willing to do anything. They just if you're going to own your own business, and that's why when you enter the mentorship now, you have to apply and you have to go through an actual interview with me, and we have to know that this will work for you, because you have to work it to make it work. You can't just. It's not like you're getting a job. You're becoming an entrepreneur, and so that is what you were like. That was huge, because I did not teach Facebook marketing in the mentorship. I don't use Facebook marketing. I use all Google marketing. So I know you and a couple other people in there now because you've shared. So TJ's been sharing his success inside, and other people oh wow, I could do this. So we're actually growing them, and they're going, well, I'll try this. And I know a couple other people are doing what you're doing, and it's working. So there are things that work. When I first started, I did kind of what you did. I didn't use Facebook as much, but I knew a lot of people in my town.
Yeah.
I went to university there. I taught guitar lessons in all the studios around there, and everybody liked me. So I just went to all the owners, and it just became, when I started tuning, they just all started using me. So I had like a built-in, but it's a different area. So you turned your business around there because you were pretty close. And I think when you texted me about getting a job, I don't even know if it was if it was.
That was in
recently.
the summer. That was just like 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah, it felt recent. I kind of told you because I tell you as an entrepreneur, I think that too. 'Cause things get hard, things get slow. I think I'm just gonna get a job. But my wife is always like, you do not want a job, because I've really never had a job. I've been sort of an entrepreneur my whole life, and I had church jobs, but I never had I worked at a hardware store when I was a kid, and but early on when I was 16, I quit the hardware store to go teach guitar, because there were people willing to pay me like $30 a lesson, and I was making like $7 an hour at the hardware store. So I told my dad, I'm done with this, because my dad's very, very much like, you work, you go to job, it was very traditional. Mm-hmm. So he was like, I was like, I'm quitting this job. It was not a good thing for him to look at me and go he's quitting his job to do this. But I'm like, yeah, but I can make so much more money. So whenever you asked me that, I'm like, well, if you do get a job, then, because you were wanting to make, I don't know, you said if I can just get a job, I can make this much money per whatever. And I said, well, that's 4 tunings a week. You can literally just focus on getting 4 tunings a week, and you'll have what you would actually equal a job or something. It was basically do the math. And I'm glad that you stuck with it, because I'll still, even after 20 some years of being an entrepreneur, it sometimes seems like it would be easier to just get a job. Like literally, you go to
Yeah.
work, they give you a paycheck. But people who have jobs, like my wife, she'll tell me, "You do not. I'm not built for
You
that."
don't actually want this.
Yeah, she's like, "Don't do it. Don't do it," because
So
it does get hard.
the biggest struggle was the fact that because I started, with nothing. Even when you make something, it's like you're just surviving. You're not putting money in the barrel. You're not building a nest. So like that's what 2025 my main goals are. We talked about like I'm gonna pay myself. My company invoices over $100 an hour, but it's time for TJ to make a percentage of that and the business to start putting money into a nest and growing. So I'm excited to implement some new business things and really growing wealth instead of just making money. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you this: what role has the mentorship played in your success? So I want you to kind of reflect on how it shaped your mindset, your approach, your goals, and like what you learned, like the actual Apex mentorship. Because
Yeah.
what did that do for you?
Yeah. So 1 month after starting Apex, I reached out to a competitor of yours, and I thought about going with them. I won't say the name.
Okay. Oh, like
But I was another online piano tuning
gotcha,
course
gotcha.
because they looked really good. They looked really fancy.
They all fancy.
Yeah, and you know exactly who I'm talking about, so we won't we won't get sued by saying anything. But so at first, like I didn't know if I trusted the system, but once I got text back and a call back, and like you were literally right there with me every step of the way. That Bloonther project, that piano project from the beginning, really changed my belief system in the mentorship because it showed me that I really did have somebody then and now that will literally walk with me every step, will take my phone calls, will get my texts. And I don't think there's anything else out on the market that has the accessibility to the knowledge and expertise that Apex mentees have. And that's not to stroke your ego, but you bring a wealth of, I guarantee that there's so many times that I text you, it's like, I've gone through everything I know. What is this? And then you just shoot back another text, try this, and this. And I can guarantee, 9.9 times out of 10, it's going to be one of those things that you shot back. And if for some reason you missed it, we'll catch it on a phone call, a couple hours later when you get free. And so there's no way I would have been able to do one with the knowledge and ability that I have. There's no way I could have done that without the mentorship. I mean, the courses prepared me to actually start, but it's the one-on-one work, not just in piano work, but in how to run a business, how to market, how to set up your website, how to set up your Google. I mean, it was a one-stop shop of how to have a successful business. And I know we'll get into this, but I'm doing a hypothesis project. I'm building another non-piano business using the Apex model. It's going to have nothing to do with pianos, but I'm going to take your coursework just in the like marketing catalyst and all that, and I'm going to do it step by step. And I guarantee you, I can grow a non-piano related business just because of what Apex teaches. And so the knowledge, all that helped me, but the community that Apex gave me, some of my best friends now are in Apex. And I know he would be insulted if I didn't mention by name, but Joe Bovey, I mean, I talk to that guy multiple times a week. I hope Joe's watching. I love that guy.
Watching Joe?
Yeah.
Watching.
Yeah, he's probably too busy tuning a piano right now, making too much money.
At 7:40 on New Year's Day, he better not be tuning pianos.
Yeah, dude, that guy works so much now. And
Yeah.
I will say he credits me for helping him go full time because this is literally Joe's words. If that hillbilly in the middle of nowhere can do it, I can do it.
That's funny. That's kind of true. I mean, people kind of ask me, and they're kind of skittish on like, well, yeah, but you're in Nashville. I'm talking to somebody in the middle of New Hampshire, and it's like, well, you're in Nashville, of course. it seems easier, but there's a lot of competition down here in the Music City. I mean, a lot. In
I
Dayton,
can
Ohio,
imagine.
we cleaned it up there because there just aren't. There's not as many musicians down here. So it's everything is so different, and you have to adapt. Like when I moved from Dayton, when I grew my biggest business was built in Dayton, and when I moved to Nashville and left Todd with the Dayton market, I thought it was going to be so easy. I was like, I got this down. This is going to be so easy. I just go down there, put up a couple ads, like I'll do the Apex model in Nashville. Man, that first year was tough. It was real tough. It was a different market, different pricing. People had a different aversion to a high price. There were piano tuners all over the place. Like every guitar player that plays on Broadway also tunes pianos out of his truck, like one day a week. I mean, it's just, for $50. I mean, there's just a lot of different silliness going on down here that is, it's just different. So like, whereas in a rural Oklahoma, like there's just nobody. You can show up and say, like in Nashville, it's like there's a couple big companies here that are really reputable. They take care of all the artists. So, I mean, there's just a lot of friction. I'm still making it in Nashville, but you have to kind of be able to move around and see what's up and just believe in yourself and believe in your product. Yeah. But it's not easy. But yeah, that's funny because Joe was in the mentorship, and I guess he was struggling to get as many clients as he wanted at whatever. Maybe he had not gone full time yet, and then you were sharing what you were doing, and then he was like, well, I'm going to do that. So that's the other thing that this year, the last 2 years, the mentorship, the Apex mentorship is much different, I think, than anything in the world because we have an online community that's specifically for, it's a small community. It's not like thousands right now as of this taping. It's not like thousands and thousands of people, but that's okay. It's a select group, and it's basically in the vibe of my mentor, Jack Hamilton. He was the same way. I texted him all the time, like, Jack, I'm at this piano. I don't know how to get this thing even open. He would say, look underneath. There's like 3 screws on that piano that you can't see. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks, bye. And, so there was a lot of, when I developed the mentorship, it was like sort of to channel Jack's mentorship to me through the world. And it seems like it is working, and it is, and through the Bolster, the mentorship, kind of like the social thing on there now, you can share everything. You can get not just from me, but you can get from other people in the mentorship, like ideas and stuff. So I appreciate everything you're saying about that. It is it makes sense what you're saying though, because what you experience with me is the same thing I experienced with Jack, and it's the same reason that just a few online courses won't get you success. Just anybody could probably take an online course and become successful. So you can't make a sweeping statement like you can't take an online course and do something. But if you just have a course and you don't have a mentor, and not just a mentor, but an actual system that works, because a lot of times in the early stages of my growing as a piano tuner, I kept going to Jack and saying, Jack, I want to do this, I want to do that. And my brain was exploding with all these ideas. And he was like, no, you're going to mess everything up. Here's where you make the money. And he kept kind of steering me back in the rails. And I'd be like, I'm over here. Because the world of piano technology is not just, it's not just tune pianos and fix a key. There's like a whole realm of work. Like I have a Steinway Action right here. That's an upper level work. It's an action regulation job in my shop, in my studio. Yeah. I usually do this in homes, but this is a piano that like the guy is really struggling, and this piano was a whole backstory to it. I said, let me take this piano, let me have like a couple weeks with it, and he was like, yeah, because he hates the way it feels. But Jack kept putting me back on the rails and saying, hey, stay here, do this. And that's how you get successful in the piano industry. And that's how you're making $50,000 your first year working part-time, which is kind of funny because I have this video on YouTube. It says, make $50,000, working part-time. And you actually did it, dude.
I actually did it working. And that's what's so amazing. So not only did I make more this year gross-wise than my previous W-2 job, my 9-to-5, but I did it working only 2.5 days on average a week, and I mean that's real numbers. I mean there's no, that's it.
In fact, YouTube banned that video from advertising. I advertised that video like 2 years ago, and they came in and said, no, that's an unsubstantiated claim. And they wouldn't let me run any more ads with that video. So, but I'm like, I'm telling these people the numbers. Like, it's just a simple video showing the numbers that you're doing. Yeah. But anytime you hear somebody say, like, you can make $50,000 working 10 hours a week, people are like, nah, that's crazy. No, that's piano tuning. If you use the right system. And there are a lot of people that start out this program and they'll call me and they'll text me and say, I'm going to start tuning for $20 a piano just because I'm new. And I'm like, no, do not do that. Do not do that. Do not go out and do $20 tunings. Anyway, so I'm right there with you guys helping you out. Let me ask you this, TJ. How has your perspective evolved from financial metrics to personal fulfillment? So basically, how do you define success now compared to when you started? It's only been a year, but has it changed?
Absolutely. Well, I think one key thing that I already mentioned is I'm trying to go from just making money to building wealth. And that comes in a lot of wealth is a stem of more than just dollars, in a bank. And so when I started tuning pianos, I didn't have something to be proud of yet, if that makes sense. Like I didn't have a company built that provided good customer service. I don't have them pulled up yet. In fact, while we're talking, maybe I can pull it up while I'm doing here. But like my Google reviews, I might be a little bit of a narcissist. When I'm sad, I'll just go read my Google reviews. Yeah, is that weird?
No.
Yes, it is, but it's okay. It's okay.
Well, as long as they're not like TJ's terrible. He did the worst job. He can't tune a piano worth crap.
No, they're all. I have. Let me see if I can find them. It's 40 something, I think.
Wow, that's amazing, dude.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
My goal was to beat 9. The 30-year tech in the town next to me has 9 Google reviews. And so now I have 45 reviews right now, all 5-star. And this one probably started to change my perspective of what I was doing as far as making money. This is a guy, his name's Dell, and I won't use his full name just for his privacy. He called me, his wife had retired, and they wanted their family heirloom piano to be playable again. It was a Kimball Spinet. This was the first Spinet that I ever pulled the action. I don't know if you remember this, but it took 2 days. This was month 2 in. It was in February of this past year. And I was there until dinner time, and finally I said, I'm going to have to come back. And I went home, and I went back the next day, and it was like a simple 15-minute fix that night we had talked about, and you told me, check this. And I actually had a dream, and I know this sounds crazy, but I had a dream where the piano came apart piece by piece. And again, I'm a Christian, and the Holy Spirit said, this is where you need to look. So when you said check the let-off bar, I had no idea what you were talking about.
Yeah.
But I had this dream, and I saw the let-off bar, and I didn't know what it was called, but I just knew that was where the problem was. And I went back the next day, and the let-off bar had come. You know how there's some screws that kind of hold it in place.
There's like
it had come. Yeah, it had come off. That was the only problem, and I didn't charge them anymore because it wasn't their fault. It was like I took it as on-the-job training. That's what I took it as. In fact, I think you told me to look at it that way.
I think by that point you were kind of you were getting frustrated with it. You're like, man, I've been there hours, and then the next day I'm like, and I was like, yeah, sometimes you're going to do a job like that and it's going to feel like crap, but you're going to have to just,
But this is the review he wrote me. It says, I highly recommend Oklahoma Piano Service. TJ is honest, courteous, and a skilled technician. He repaired and tuned our family heirloom that others wouldn't look at or said wasn't worth repairing. TJ provided us a detailed estimate with lower than expected price. Although it took a little more work than estimated, the price stayed the same. No surprises, no games. Because it was important to us, it was important to TJ. Our piano plays and sounds beautiful. Thanks, TJ.
Wow.
That review, which was 45 weeks ago, totally changed my perspective of what I was doing. I think we made a joke one time about saving lives one piano at a time, or something like that. But I learned what I was doing truly mattered. I delivered a piano that one in Pickens. I delivered their piano, and it was a grandma and grandpa who wanted a piano for their granddaughters to start taking lessons on. So there's grandma, there's grandpa, there's son, there's daughter-in-law, and there's 2 granddaughters. And I'm playing the piano, and I just played a simple Amazing Grace. And the grandma started crying, and the son, and this is in southeast Oklahoma, he says, Mama, what's wrong? And she's just got tears in her eyes. She said, heaven's just going to be so beautiful. You know, music is a powerful thing that drives emotion. And I get to be a part of making that music more beautiful. And so it really changed my perspective of what I did was important. I wasn't just making money. I'm providing a service to people that really helps them feel joy and happiness and love and all these wonderful emotions, you know, that comes with being a musician. You know, I get to be a part of that. And so what I do is important, you know?
Yeah. It's
so
crazy. Yeah, that's a huge I'm glad you shared those stories, because that's it, you know, as a tech and as a business person, you know, we can get kind of focused on like, I got to get in there, get this piano tune, get out of there, especially when you start having hundreds or thousands of clients. Sometimes it feels like you know, like I got 5 appointments today, I'm going to boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
But I was always a musician. Music was always a huge part of my emotional connection with God, with the world, really. Mostly with God. I called, you know, that book, The 5 Love Languages.
Uh-huh.
I don't
Yeah.
like that book. I hate that book. But I'm sure that's a fantastic book. But I've just always hated that book. I think I might have did that book, but it was like a popular Christian book, and I know that book
Yeah, I remember,
is phenomenal, right? It's a great book, but I've always been like, But I always said like music was my love language. It was my language that I was able to
Yeah.
speak to God with. Because when I was young, I would just listen to the guitar. I played the guitar growing up. I didn't play the piano much until I was a teenager, but I would just listen to guitar chords, and I was like so, you know, connected to music. Music was the language that I used. Worship and everything became my love language. I mean, it's not like I guess you can't. But my wife's a musician. And growing up, you know, when we met each other, our first date, we wrote a song.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like we were like
Do
songwriting.
you still have the song? Do you have the song?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. That's a wonderful story.
Yeah, we got lost in Cincinnati. We found a amphitheater, and we always had a guitar. She had written a song, like a verse and a chorus. I had written a chorus, and we kind of like made a medley out of them, and it became kind of a cool song. So I'll have to share it. I will share it this year. But
cool.
Music has been so the 5 love languages plus music. But as a piano tech, we really we're invited into people's homes. We're in this and in their church and everything. And it's weird because I was always a performer. I was always wanted to be a rock star, and I was always a worship leader. So I was always the one on stage. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it was so important to be cool and be up there, like being the lead singer, playing guitar. But when I got laid off from my church job and started tuning pianos, I was in churches now on a Tuesday morning with nobody, just me by myself. It was so humbling and so different. It took me a couple years to sort of get that vibe of I'm not the center of attention. I'm not the big, you know, boohoo worship leader, whatever. I found God in a new way, and I found art and music in a different way. For like that first couple years, it was hard. I would go to these big stages. You know, when I'd get called to tune for a big artist, and I would walk in and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is what I want to do with my life, is be a rock star. But I'd be like, can you tune that piano and get out of here before the talent gets here? So there was a little bit of weirdness for me in that, going from being a performer, being a stage musician, to being like the backstage guy. But it became something that was so much better for me, just to be able to be a part of it in a weird way. Like nobody else can do that. When I tuned for Harry Connick Jr., they called me I was actually going to his concert. My wife loves him. We had tickets. They called me like an hour before concert started, and we were heading to dinner, and they said like, look, the piano's trash. Like whoever did this morning, it's terrible. He's mad. You need to come over here. I was like, I'll be there. And so they let me in the backstage. I go tune the piano. My wife got to eat with the band in the backstage, and then they gave us upgraded tickets. They upgraded us like front row. So we've had these cool moments in music that came with being a piano tuner. But I was saying that because your skill is so rare that, you know, when Harry Connick Jr. was there in the whole city of Dayton, you know, they didn't have very many people they could call, you know, and so you really can't. That's how I was able to sort of elevate my company and my work, is do what you did. Work really hard, charge really fair prices, take every piano seriously, and then when you get a call to tune for Harry Connick Jr., you just go, holy moly, like this is huge. Like it's nerve-wracking, you know? I tuned that piano in front of like thousands of people because it was like the hour before the concert. They'd already opened doors.
Crazy.
So it was a little
That's
bit
crazy.
just get it done.
I can't screw this one up.
You don't.
Have you seen the picture I've had it on my Facebook before where I'm on the Tulsa Theater stage and like it's a microphone and you see the lights like on all these seats.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like that was a pretty cool moment where I got called to go tune for Hanson, the Bop guys.
Oh yeah.
And this was in April, so January, February, March, April, month 4 of opening my business. I'm tuning for Grammy nominated artist Hanson and for a Leon Russell concert, tribute concert. And like it was just a surreal moment to be on stage and like have the VIP tickets and just get to walk around backstage and say, it's okay, I'm the piano guy.
Yeah, right.
So,
that's early, man. I mean, you had some pretty big moments. I mean, tuning for Grammy artists like Hanson. I mean, I'm not sure if they're still a band, right? I mean, they were really big.
They do some stuff. I think they do a little bit of solo stuff individually now. He was a really cool guy. I have that picture.
I look with him.
I look like a goofball. Like that's kind of what I ask for. This or what I'm going to ask for, if possible. I want 2 tickets if possible, and a picture. Like that's always my goal. I think, and I know Joe got to tune for John Cougar.
Mellencamp.
Was it? Yeah, Mellencamp. And Willie Nelson was at that concert, and he tried to get a picture, and they were like, "No, you can't."
That's awesome, dude. Willie Nelson, that would be pretty legit.
Oh yeah, that would have been amazing. So he has one up on me on that one. So
man, but I've never got a picture. Sometimes I meet the artist. I'm really shy to get a picture. If you can get a picture, that would be great.
Yeah.
I'm really
obviously
shy.
It's not a have to, but it's always a cool thing to have. I know we're almost out of time. Was there anything on live, like any questions or anything specific that people? We're just having a good time.
That's a good question. I have one more question for you, and while you're answering that, I'll pull up the live stream.
If anybody's there, they can ask questions before we leave.
Yeah, so you can ask any questions live, and if you're watching this later, just type in your questions, we'll answer them.
Yeah.
What is, so TJ, what's enough, you've shared everything about your business. What advice would you give someone if they're considering starting their own business, and especially starting their own piano tuning business? Like, what do you think? I mean, there's a lot of people that pop through YouTube, and they call me, and we have these meetings, and what are you saying to them? You've been in it 1 year. What's your big advice for them? Because I know that a lot of them are very nervous to even start the business, and let alone even believe in piano tuning.
Absolutely. So the first thing, piano tuning specifically, you have to understand that there is a need for it. Like that's the advice I would give is just come to the realization that there is a need for it and that you can make great money doing it. The next thing that I would say would be if a person wanted to start, I would hope that they would just save money. Like that would be the number one. I would say if at all possible, just start putting a little bit of your day job money into account to say this is going to be a nest for my launch. Because it takes money to build a business. And I know not only do you got to get tools and mentorship, but those first few months when you're building a clientele. If you jump in full time, you're going to have a nest, or you're going to have a job, because not everybody's going to have a $5,000 rebuild drop into their lap, when they start. And that's something that I want to stress is take your finances serious from day one. Don't just think, oh, I'm making all this great money. Invest into yourself. You do such a wonderful job. You build such wonderful things. It's time for you to start investing in yourself, and that means putting some money back to build even bigger. So that's what I would say. Probably would be the biggest thing would be to save money, and then to just believe in yourself. We talked a little bit about imposter syndrome. I had to look myself in the mirror every day and say, you're a master piano technician. You can fix anything on the piano. And I just had to fake it till I made it, and eventually I made it.
Yeah, I've never done anything in my whole life that I wasn't faking it a little bit until you make it. I mean, and you have to have that personality. There's some people in the mentorship that have kind of gotten frozen by like they want it to be perfect before they do it, or they're trying to launch their business. And
Yeah.
I'm there for you guys, telling you you got to get out there and do it. You got to have some kind of like a little bit of believing in yourself. You can spin this up. Yeah, that's great advice, because you can spin this up in 3 to 6 months. You can get out there and start making money. A lot of your money, your bigger money, is going to come through, obviously you heard this, through upsells, through bigger jobs. You're going to tune. That's like your bread and butter money, but you're also going to be like, hey, I can do this, I can do that. So as that first, the Apex mentorship is now 3 years. The first year is like just get out there and start tuning. And then year 2 is like start regulating, voicing, and growing your business. And year 3 is when you become a certified master tech. So that's kind of the journey that it takes. It will grow, and if you watch my webinar on Apex, you'll see that I did double my business every year for the first 5 years, and that's how I had so many clients after 5 years. So TJ, you're at 200. You're already well above where I was my first year. So if this coming year you can build that to 400, then the next year will be 800. You'll be well into six figures by then, especially with all your moving and your upselling and all that. But everybody I talk to, like, don't go out and quit your job. Don't go out and like just go crazy. Don't think that it's just going to fall into your lap. It is going to be a little bit difficult, and nothing I've ever done has ever just been like, sometimes you hear about people like, I didn't know what I was doing, and then all of a sudden I became a millionaire because I created. There are stories like that, but most businesses are, especially small businesses, are very volatile, and they're hard. There are statistics out there that I think they say half of all small businesses will close within 5 years. I've been in business over 20 years, and once you find something that works, then you just keep doing it. So TJ, and we haven't talked about this, but this is like you already know what works. Now just do it again. Just ramp it up, do it again. So you have your 200
absolutely.
customers. The cool thing about piano tuning is that first couple years I was pretty nervous. I was like out of my element. I was trying to figure everything out. And some point in about year 2.5, I was like, I am a master at this. Like I would go to appointments. Because you get a phone call, you get a text, you get a booking, and you don't know. They say the pedal's broke, and you go in and you're like, you don't know. Maybe it's going to be easy. Maybe it's going to be, the dog ate the pedal. The dog did eat a pedal off a piano I'm working on right now. He just chomped the heck out of that thing. So,
That's so crazy.
You don't know in that first year. Every appointment felt scary to me. By year 2.5, I started, and then by year 3, I was sailing. I was like, give me any call, I'm going. I'm making a ton of money. And not just like just making money, but making it fairly easy. And then after that, 3-5 years, the 10-year mark, you can just kind of build your business and tweak it and make it better and better. So that first couple years is going to be hard, and that's why the mentorship has been extended to 3 years. That's why you're going to have, and then after that, there are no renewals at this point. You're in the alumni mentorship, so you can basically grow along with us. The community is important. But I've realized this last year, talking to all the people as they've been kind of entering, as we went to an application only kind of model, it's really helped me because I'm listening to your stories, and I'm like, oh yeah, because I was talking to people anyway, but some random people would just sign up online, never talk to me. But now I'm hearing more of what it really is like to be scared to start a business, to have like, hey, I got kids, I've got a job, I'm trying to change my life. A lot of dads, I talk to, and they're saying, I make a lot of money in my job, but I never see my kids, and that's something that I was big on early in my journey. I was able to spend a lot of time with my kids, and TJ, I see you with your kids all the time now, so that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
It's so much different than going to work. I'm going to share this story, and then TJ, if you had any last things to share. I was at a tuning, and the guy was there, and I was looking up at his refrigerator. He was getting ready to pay me. And he had a couple kids on his refrigerator, and I was like, oh, we were just talking. My son was like probably a year old. Everything changed when I had my boy, in terms of my process of what I would do. And he said to me, this was my son was very young. And I looked up, I was, oh, you got kids or whatever? And he said, yeah. And he was like probably in his 60s. He was like, I worked my whole life. He worked at a factory. And he said, don't do this. He said, I turned around one day and they were gone. They were gone. He's like, and now I'm retired and I don't see them. I'm like, they're gone. That happened so fast. He said, whatever you do, don't. He was like kind of warning me. I was like, oh my gosh, he's right. Like he worked like, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week or whatever. That's what my dad did, in that era.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the jobs were like.
Yeah.
And he just warned me. He's like, they're going to be gone and you're not going to see them anymore. They're going to be gone that quick. And that sort of really stuck with me. I will never forget that. So when I'm talking to dads and even moms, you can't give up your entire youth with your kids for just working a grinding job. That's piano tuning had really changed me because I made my own schedule. I took every Thursday off. It was Daddy Day. I have all those
Absolutely.
memories; they'll never go away. And that's why I hated having a job. Just having somebody tell me when I had to be somewhere all the time. So it changed my perspective for me as a father. And so now that I'm doing Apex and talking to these dads, I'm like, man, this is really huge because if we can help those dads, get a better work schedule and they can know their kids better, that's huge. So I've been really blessed that I listened to. I always listen to older people, but when that guy said that, I was like, yeah, dang, he's right.
Yeah. That's so good.
You got to make time, and piano tuning gave me that time to make time. Anything else you want to say before we leave, TJ?
Well, there was a couple of comments that I was gonna.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So first, there's Philip, newbie here. I recently restrung my newest grand piano all myself and have been using Pianoscope app to get it in tune. It sounds fine. What are the next steps for me to transition into being a pro? And then he had another comment down there. How much do you need to save up to start? I bought a bunch of tools already, like tuning hammer, string tools, piano tuning app. So a couple of those, you restrung the newest grand piano. That's impressive if you did it correctly. And that's
You already
not to
strung
say
it, yeah.
that's not to be rude, Philip. If you did that correctly, brother, you're halfway there to already being a pro, dude. So congratulations. What I would say, you need to just be a mentor. You need to get a mentor so that you can learn the piano inside and out, so that you can regulate, that you can voice, that you can do all the things that you need to do to get rich like Joe Bovey. Oh, hey, Joe. TJ,
Yeah.
how did you get rich? I am in fact not rich, Joe. Unlike you, I didn't have somebody hand me everything in life, so I didn't. Joe's one of my best friends, so I could give him a hard time. I'm asked, am I an RPT? I am not an RPT. And Joe Bovey, my best friend, is an RPT. But you want to know something funny? I make more money than most RPTs I know. So
That is pretty funny. I'm glad you said that.
So
I know I do too, and that's the thing. When I was never an RPT, and I don't know that I'll ever be one. I thought about doing it because this January Joe is releasing
Yeah.
an oral tuning course. We're
Yeah.
prepping people for the RPT test. I'm so far into my career now, and a lot of the older guys that I've met, they kind of like they phase out of being an RPT when they get older because they're like,
Yeah.
well, but you can become an RPT. It's really kind of cool. Joe did, and I'm super proud of Joe. I mean, I'm so proud of
Yeah.
him for doing that, and then he went and did it himself, and then he made the course to show you. It's going to be the best course on how to pass the oral
Yeah,
tuning on
absolutely.
on PTG ever in the world. I've taken courses. I have DVDs. This course is going to be the best course, and because Joe shows you the inside track, like literally exactly what to do to pass this thing, and it's sort of a hybrid thing. So that's coming out next month. So you can become an RPT, but RPT won't. I have mixed emotions on that now because I see how it's helped Joe. He's made a lot more money since becoming an RPT. He's gotten in with these guys who are giving him work. So
Yeah.
if you need to become an RPT, there's definitely benefits. But my mentors were MPTs. They were like, you don't want to be an RPT. They were like the old guard of like, don't do that. They were literally like, just like, well,
Yeah.
one of my mentors was like, I was like, I kept asking him about it, and I kept wanting to do it when I was younger, and I kept feeling like I need to do this. He said, well, if you want to sit around and test yourself and test everybody and blah, 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 just go do it
Yeah.
and, have fun with it. But I was like, yeah, I kind of wanted to do it, but I just never. I honestly, once I started working, I didn't have any time. I didn't have time. I was just working,
Yeah.
and now I'm like, well, I'm still not sure, Joe, if I'm gonna go take the RPT test because I kind of wanted to do it just to do it for fun, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll become RPTs, maybe not. It doesn't.
That's kind of where I told Joe the other day I was going to do it, but I think I've changed my mind again, just in spite. Like, I want to be the opposite of Joe. Like, if
Okay,
he's an
yeah.
RPT, I'm not going to be an RPT. so, just for fun. But the truth of the matter is, Joe's course, I'm really excited about it. I don't know if you know this, Eric. I've kind of been like a hamster to that.
Okay.
Like the guinea pig. A hamster's the wrong animal to say. I've been like a guinea pig.
Okay, you've been
Like,
working on it?
yeah, so like I can tune a piano orally now, and like I've been practicing, like and Joe's walked me through like I think he's experimented on me a little bit, so, and then the last comment there from Barkles, I love seeing Barkles on these things. He's such a cool guy. Dad here wanting more time for my kid. Barkles, it's time to join, dude. I'm so ready to see you in Apex.
He's like half
So-
in. He's half in already.
Yeah, I know.
He's like
and then
in
there's
the-
just Joe trolling. I think Joe's trolling now.
Make up your mind,
Joe's a
TJ.
troll.
I want to know
Yeah.
what Philip. Okay, so Philip says, I don't know. Do I know you, Philip? He says I'm actually already wealthy from my investments. Dude, that's so awesome. So I just want to try tuning on the side, especially if I quit my day job. I feel like I know that guy, Philip. At least I've seen him on the channel. Dude, that's so amazing because I'm doing trading now too, and so I'm working on my trading account, and it's starting
Can
to
you
work.
can you guys like maybe teach a little on
Yeah.
how to get wealthy from investments
Exactly.
101? I would say save 3 to 6 months. I forgot to answer that question earlier. If possible, I would save 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. I think that's a good
If you
goal
can
to
do
have.
that, yeah. You know,
Yeah.
what I should have done, and I've been kicking myself all month. I need to get over this. In 2025, I need to stop thinking about this. My friend 7 years ago, called me. He's like, dude, you got to buy Bitcoin. You need to buy Bitcoin right now. And I was like, yeah, man, maybe I will. If I would have put $1,000 in Bitcoin, when he told me that,
Yeah.
I'd have so many millions of dollars right now. And
Yeah.
I'm just living in such regret with this whole Bitcoin thing. Cause dude,
You and everybody else in the world who
I
didn't buy.
Yeah, I woke up this morning and I was thinking, if I would have put $100 even a month into Bitcoin when my son when he was born, he's 11, he would have like $50 million right now. And I mean, so I'm not gonna worry about it because I am trading now and I'm finally making some money and I'm real excited. This year's gonna be huge, I think. I can't tell you what to invest in by law, unfortunately. Yeah.
This is the beauty of Apex.
Yeah.
Is like it's We're just the live hangout that we did the other night, dude. That was so much fun. Like we're just guys who want to build business and spend time with our families and
Yeah. One of my friends who was a piano tuner, and maybe I said this, I won't tell you who it is, but some of you guys will know who it is. He literally, his dad passed away. He didn't know his dad was wealthy, and he was a piano tuner, but he found like, I don't know, $500,000 under his bed.
Yeah,
He had like
I remember the
5
story.
checking accounts, and he found like a house in Florida, and I don't think he knew. And then, that was like, before I met him, he was still tuning, but he was always going, I'm rich. You know, but he was already a piano tuner, and he never stopped tuning. But it was just funny that when his dad passed away, he literally inherited, just for a piano tuner, it's like if you found $500,000 in your checking account one day. I mean, that was a lot of money for him.
if anybody wants to send that my way, come on now.
TJ, thanks, man. Dude, it's been
No
nice
problem, dude.
hearing your story and sharing. TJ is in 2025. He's inside the mentorship as a host mentor, and he's basically he's going to focus a lot on marketing and just sales because he's a great sales guy. He's a great upseller, and you really do have to believe in yourself and be able to do that. So he's going to be in there to help you guys out. And I'll be putting this up. You can watch a live stream. You can get the stuff. You know what? Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you aren't subscribed, and send us some more comments. All right, guys?
Yeah, cool. And final note, I am rebranding. Oklahoma Piano Service is turning into Oak and Ivory Piano Company. We're expanding.
I like
Bigger
it.
and
Oak and
better.
Ivory.
So,
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. We'll see you guys in the mentorship if you get in there.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate everything you do.
Yeah. You can always just click in the link in the description. You can apply, and you can get a one-on-one with me so you can get started. All right. Thanks, guys.